Kryptonite1 is a blockchain investment company listed on the NEX exchange. It invests in early stage projects and blockchain digital assets. These assets are amongst those new companies that are expected to form the backbone of the emerging web infrastructure. George McDonaugh is Chief Executive of Kryptonite1. He joins us now. George, welcome.
Thank you.
I find it a very, very complicated space overall. You make very light work of it, but let's start from the beginning and talk about blockchain, which I think is the underlying fundamental principle of the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. So the blockchain was the sort of the underlying infrastructure of Bitcoin, which was invented by this unknown entity called Satoshi Nakamoto. And really, where it became very interesting to people was its ability to keep track of a ledger globally across a group of neutral participants. So effectively how it works is people plug their computer infrastructure into the Bitcoin protocol, and they sort of vie it out with each other to find what are called blocks of transactions. And then one computer every 10 minutes forms a block and then broadcasts its version of the transactions to the whole network. And then the real piece of genius is how the network comes to what's called consensus on the state of the ledger. And then once there's full agreement amongst all these nodes, then a new block is formed and more transactions are verified. So no one has control of it. No, it's not centralized in any way.
It's open source.
So, well, absolutely, it's open source. The underlying code is open source. Anyone can participate in the market. Bitcoin is the sort of token of value that sits on the blockchain that not only recompenses what we call miners, who are the people who are forming the blocks, but is also a token of value for people to transact with each other on the open market.
So where does Kryptonite fit into this? Kryptonite1 fit into this? And how did you start and how did you get going? And
well, Kryptonite1 was designed to take advantage of what's called the token economy. So Bitcoin was the first blockchain, and then gradually people began to experiment with it. We had this thing called the altcoin boom, where there were effectively lots of clones of Bitcoin. And then one chap called Vitalik Buterin came up with a scope for a new type of blockchain that was based on a Turing-complete language, Turing-complete coding language that enables things called smart contracts. That was Ethereum, and Ethereum was effectively the first ICO, token sale, which is a word that people are talking about now. They raised about $18 million, produced this platform, and then out of that grew lots of companies who could build new types of businesses using smart contracts, and tokens are inherent to those businesses. Kryptonite1 buys tokens.
Okay, let's take a look at a bit more about how you make money then out of this. Before we look at your client base, the companies you interact with, how do you make money in this space? So
the way it works is because all these smart contract businesses are building open source platforms, there isn't any IP as such, because they're infinitely copyable. So what you have to do is you have to get the crowd to fund you to some degree. You're building infrastructure that they want. And so you create a scope of your project, what you want to build, and you, whether it's in the insurance vertical or finance or gaming, which is very popular, and you express that idea to the crowd, you show you've got some code, you show you've got a team, and you release a token to the market that represents that project, that has some use case once you've built the platform. And then people buy those tokens at a particular cost that they think is a fair value. And then gradually, as that team delivers on its KPIs, as in its building, things are working, the code is being sort of put through its paces, that token becomes more valuable until eventually the platform launches, and at that point, hopefully there's what we call buy pressure on the token, because they're scarce, there's only a few of them, and at that point the price has gone up exponentially. So we pick projects that we feel the token is going to have future value, We do a lot of analysis. We have some great technical advisors, and we get to know the teams very well. And then we buy and hold the token and manage the token on the markets in line with how they're delivering against their promise.
Okay, before we go into the client list, why the Ethereum network? What is it about that you like so much that you think is going to make you the most?
Well, Ethereum was the first blockchain to produce working smart contract infrastructure. Effectively, smart contracts are just packets of code that people can design that create some kind of outcome, and the chain processes those codes. So if you wanted to create, I don't know, a dice gambling game, you can create the logic for that game in smart contracts and place them onto the Ethereum chain. It's a little bit like a server, but inherent to that is the USPs of decentralization, in the sense that it's a server with no location, no jurisdiction, anyone can play, those kind of things. It's very open, it's very permissionless.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a quick look at some of your clients here. I'm very interested in Amisgo, it's called here, but Amisgo I recognise as a name from not old technology, but I mean, this is a payments company that's been around a while.
That's right, yeah.
Longer than I think blockchain has.
Well,
explain your relationship with Amisgo and Amisgo.
Well, Amisgo was a project that we looked at for quite a length of time. You're right in the sense that they had a sort of previous incarnation of a successful payments business, and what they'd done is they'd looked at the emerging technology and saw that they could disrupt the payments infrastructure in their region by utilizing this new blockchain, Ethereum. And so they're still building, but their token has come to market. They've got some very significant partnerships, and their token became very popular and still is very popular. So it's one of our best investments ever.
Another one you've exited, I think, in part is Gollum. Is that right? I'm interested in this because this is an outsourcing computer network, isn't it? I think you can.
That's right. That's another one that's captured the hearts and imaginations of those who are interested in this space. They're trying to create a sort of decentralized computation platform that has a Gollum token that's the sort of the payment processor or the token of value in the system that allows people to pay for computation. So if you have a good example is something like cartoon rendering. Something for these sort of Pixar type animations. If you need to render them and you need to render them cheaply, it splits the project up across billions of computers around the world, does the job, and then brings it back together, puts it back together, and delivers it to the client. And by sort of taking redundant computer power and allowing people access to it, they can do it cheaper than perhaps others can on the market.
And you've exited, I think, that in part.
Well, what we do is we manage our tokens in line with the price. Essentially, we have a buy and hold strategy. We never get rid of everything. We still have a very significant portion of Gollum, but we manage to get into lots of projects by drawing down what we put in. When it's done a considerable multiple, and we repurpose that into more projects. It's sort of rocket-fueled VCing in a way. We get to do a lot very, very quickly because these tokens come to market so quickly. Sometimes within 4 weeks, we can have got our money back out at a multiple. We call it the trophy cabinet. We put the rest in the trophy cabinet and we keep it, and then we repurpose the rest on a new project.
One example of one that hasn't come to the market yet you've got an interest in is Cosmos, I believe, is that right?
Yeah, Cosmos is very interesting. They're building a blockchain infrastructure that allows other blockchains to connect to it and pass tokens between chains. It's a sort of interchain protocol. It's something that was foreseen some years ago as a useful piece of infrastructure, and it's what we call low down in the stack. So you have this Web3 stack idea where you have applications at the top, and then protocol layers that service those applications. Cosmos is seen as a very low down platform in the stack, and it's going to be really interesting to see how blockchains connect to it. We're looking forward to that one coming to market.
Yeah, I know you're in a closed period at the moment, so I'm not going to ask you about your financials. Sure. But broadly speaking, you've been listed, I think you've been listed, what, about 18 months?
That's correct,
so.
Yep.
How have things gone in that 18-month period, and where do you see things in the next 18 months?
Well, we've done exceedingly well, better than we expected to some degree. When we were probably the first of the space in terms of being set up specifically for the token market. In that time, the ecosystem has grown hugely. I think people have begun to understand why these projects are important. Being able to create a token that a network of people can take and get hold of is very powerful. And you find that over time, these really huge communities form around these projects. And just in lieu of that, the token prices go up. And so we've picked very well. Our network is very extensive across the ecosystem, and that's allowing us to pick the right projects at the right time.
Yeah, look, it's a pleasure, George. Thanks indeed for coming to talk about that. And George McDonaugh is the Chief Executive of Kryptonite1. Look out as well for another video with George talking about the Bitcoin, the Ethereum space, and where he thinks those markets are going to go. He's an investor in that particular part of the business as well. So more with George in another video. Look out for that on the IG platform.